There is an elephant in Amboseli National Park in Kenya that has never been hunted. It was born in a protected area. No human has ever pointed a weapon at it. And yet, if a human being on foot approaches within a certain distance, the elephant turns. It watches. Its posture changes. Something in its body prepares for the possibility of threat before any threat has materialized. The fear is not learned, not from this elephant's own experience. It is something older than that. And that is the question worth asking. Not just why animals fear humans, the immediate answer to that is obvious, but how that fear got so deep, so fast, so universal, that it now exists in animals that have never personally encountered a reason for it. How did a single species become the default threat category for most of the animal kingdom, including animals we have never directly harmed? The answer reaches back further than most people expect. For most of evolutionary history, large predators occupied a very specific place in the animal world. They were dangerous, they were known, and prey species had evolved responses to them over millions of years. The gazelle that fled a lion was not making a calculation. It was running a program written into it by generations of survival, an automatic threat response tuned precisely to the predator it had evolved alongside. Lion smell, lion shape, lion movement, run. These threat responses were specific. They were calibrated to particular predators in particular landscapes, and they were remarkably stable because the predators themselves were remarkably stable. The same species with the same behaviors in the same territories across thousands of generations. Then humans arrived, and nothing about them fit any existing threat template. Early humans in Africa did not look like apex predators. They were not large. They were not fast. They had no venom, no claws, no natural weapons that any prey animal had evolved to recognize and fear. For millions of years, hominins coexisted with megafauna without triggering the deep automatic threat responses that large cats and pack hunters triggered. There was no specific fear of humans encoded in the prey animals of Africa because humans had not yet become a threat worth encoding. Then, somewhere around 300,000 years ago, things changed. Language, coordinated group hunting, spears, the ability to plan across time, to stalk prey not just in the moment but across days, to learn individual animal behaviors and exploit them, to share information about animal locations and routes between members of a group. Humans became hunters of a completely different kind, not faster or stronger than the prey, but more persistent, more coordinated, and operating across a cognitive horizon that no animal on Earth had ever encountered before. The persistence hunting technique is one of the most remarkable strategies in the history of predation. Humans, uniquely among mammals, can run at moderate speed for extremely long distances without overheating. Most quadruped prey animals are faster in the short term, but overheat rapidly during extended exertion. A human group could simply follow an animal, not sprinting, just jogging, across hours and miles until the animal collapsed from heat exhaustion. The prey never saw the threat coming in any form it recognized. It did not experience a chase in any conventional sense. It just became tired and then died. No existing threat template covered this. No prey animal had evolved a fear response to being followed at a moderate pace by a creature that seemed harmless until it wasn't. And then came the long-distance weapon, the spear, the bow, the atlatl, tools that delivered lethal force from a distance that no natural predator operated from. A lion attacks from within a body length. An ambush predator uses concealment and proximity. Every threat response in the animal kingdom was calibrated for proximity, for a predator that had to get close to do damage. The distance at which a human hunter could deliver death was beyond the range that any prey animal's instincts were built to recognize as dangerous. The result was systematic, continent-wide devastation. When modern humans first arrived in Australia roughly 50,000 years ago, the continent was home to a megafauna that had never encountered humans at all. Giant wombats, marsupial lions, diprotodons the size of hippopotamuses. These animals had no fear of humans. They had no threat template for a small upright creature carrying a stick. Within a few thousand years, more than 80% of Australia's megafauna was gone. The pattern repeated in the Americas when humans arrived around 15,000 years ago. North America lost the mammoths, the mastodons, the giant ground sloths, the American horses, the short-faced bears, within a relatively brief window following human arrival. The animals that survived were the ones that already had a functional fear response to human-like threats. or the ones that learned fast enough, or the ones that were simply not targeted. What remained developed something new, not the specific calibrated fear of a known predator. A generalized, deep, persistent wariness of the human form and human smell that did not require specific prior experience to activate. A fear that could be passed between individuals through social learning, the distress response of one animal warning others, and eventually became embedded in the behavioral repertoire of entire species. This is the fear the Amboseli elephant carries, not learned from its own experience, learned from the behavior of every elephant around it, which learned it from the elephants before them, which learned it from a time when the cost of not fearing the upright creature was extinction. The speed at which this fear spread and deepened was without precedent in evolutionary history. Normally, the encoding of a predator-specific fear response in a species happens over thousands of generations through natural selection. The individuals that fled a particular predator survived and reproduced, and the fear response gradually became more consistent across the population. This process takes time. Significant time. What humans represented was a threat that changed faster than natural selection could track. The weapons changed. The strategies changed. The distances changed. The times and locations of hunting changed. An animal that had learned to be wary of humans with spears encountered humans with firearms. An animal that had learned the patterns of foot hunters encountered hunters arriving by vehicle. The threat was a moving target that no evolutionary process could keep pace with. The only viable response was the generalized one: fear the human form itself, fear the human smell itself, treat the presence of a human being as a sufficient reason for alarm regardless of context, regardless of whether this particular human in this particular moment represents any actual danger. This is why the elephant that has never been hunted still watches when a human approaches on foot. Its behavioral inheritance includes the information that watching and wariness are the correct response to the human form, because for its ancestors in the landscape that shaped its species, they were. And there is something in this that the species being feared should sit with. The most widespread fear in the animal kingdom is not of storms, not of disease, not of the natural disasters that have shaped ecosystems for hundreds of millions of years. It is of us. A fear so total that it has reorganized how animals move through landscapes, shifting to nocturnal behavior in areas of human activity, abandoning territories that were occupied for generations, altering migration routes, changing feeding patterns, compressing ranges. The presence of humans, even unarmed humans, even humans in national parks who have never harmed an animal, produces measurable physiological stress responses in wildlife. We became the apex predator not through size or speed or venom. We became it through coordination, persistence, and the ability to make tools that made proximity irrelevant. And the animal kingdom, in the only way available to it, wrote that fact into the behavior of every creature that survived long enough to learn it. The elephant in Amboseli is not afraid of you specifically. It is afraid of what you are, and it learned that fear from a history you were part of even before you existed.